something meaningful but hit another wall. But here's the thing though, maybe I'm not supposed to figure it out, right? Maybe these feelings are part of growing up, like finding your own way through all these broken systems. And honestly, while society pushes for neat solutions, my mind is more comfortable with chaos anyway, because at least it reflects how everything in reality feels. You know, that little voice in your head that goes off randomly when you're trying to sleep or something. Like, did I turn the stove on? Or worse, like 5 minutes ago, I was driving home from work. My car's transmission started acting up again. Shifted hard into second gear for no reason at all while I was stopped at a red light. Seriously, why is it doing that now? Anyway, so I pull over to the side of this like really sketchy intersection on the way home because my brain is telling me manual transmission time and then maybe oversharing about how much I hate cars sometimes. Like, no, not at all. It's just a damn car. But anyway, while I'm idling there, waiting for it to reset itself or whatever, like, what was that? Oh, yeah, the 40% thing. I remember thinking earlier today, maybe during my podcast intro thingy, somewhere out there, people are predicting this AI revolution. Like, they're saying we're going into a whole new era where jobs will disappear and robots will take over everything. But honestly, I feel like half of us are still stuck dealing with broken technology on the most basic level. Fifth gears awkwardly. So anyway, side of the road here in this sketchy area, but no one's fixing. I mean, I can't fix my own damn car because, let's be honest, I've been trying to learn about cars for like years now. It feels like I'm always chasing something else. Speaking of which, what was the topic again? Oh yeah, tech failures and productivity stuff. Maybe it's more than that. Like, how do we even define a productivity anymore, especially with social media eating up all our time? I mean, look at my own phone. It keeps glitching randomly while I'm trying to write this stupid monologue in my head anyway. And you know what's funny? It used to be that writing was a meditative thing for me, like sitting down and getting words out without the constant digital interruptions screaming, hey, I'm here every 5 seconds. But now it feels like I can't even do simple tasks without some kind of tech failure. And it's not just my phone either. Remember how they kept talking about manual transmissions being obsolete? No, wait, that was just a phase or something. You know what else is obsolete? The idea of actually thinking before you post something online. Anyway, I'm rambling again. I always do this when I start driving around with no real plan except to talk randomly into the mic, like it's some kind of performance art thing. Which, okay, maybe it is a little bit, but here's what else. My car, even though its transmission keeps slipping into second gear unnecessarily, it still gives me that sense of freedom. That moment when you're in control. No matter how much shit goes wrong around you, adjust seat. So yeah, I guess the point is about finding balance, right? Maybe we can't fully escape technology, but neither should we just throw ourselves into it blindly either, because then everyone ends up burned out anyway. Just like my phone battery is dying while I'm thinking too much about all of this. Anyway, gotta go. I have a meeting to join on Zoom in 5 minutes or whatever. And yeah, that's the thing though. If everything is online and accessible from your car, what does it mean when you actually leave the house? Does leaving even exist anymore? Oh, you know what I mean? Anyway, I was trying to get some work done this morning. Yeah, you know, the whole productivity hustle culture thing. Like, everyone's got an app for it, right? Noted that my phone probably has 57 different apps for getting things done or blocking time. But honestly, the Wi-Fi decided it wasn't feeling well just as I was trying to copy some files from a server. Then I'm not talking about the little cloud icon wigging out. No, like the actual network connection dropped clean off the face of the earth for 5 minutes. But yeah, I was also listening to a previous episode because my car's podcast system plays back episodes when the engine is off, which feels like cheating. No, it doesn't cheat. It saves battery, although sophisticated stuff. But while driving, that's where it matters. Yeah, and like Like cooking used to be an art form you learned by doing. Now it's just YouTube tutorials and food delivery apps. Or writing. It used to be a skill built through practice, editing, maybe even handwriting draft. Had people copy paste from chatbots or generate entire articles with one click because efficiency. I don't know if this makes sense, but the contrast feels stark. Anyway, back to my car thought. Driving forces you into the present. You can't scroll on your phone while focusing on the road unless you're like me and glance at it every 3 seconds. It's a physical interaction with the environment, which might be why I feel more grounded in the driver's seat metaphorically. Or maybe because my car is old enough that it doesn't have fancy distractions built in. It does have Bluetooth, though. Satellite radio. Oh, yeah. A satellite radio. I forgot about that for a minute. It has like 30 plus channels of curated content without needing Wi-Fi or cellular data. Though the ads are still annoying as hell sometimes, but they're pre-baked into the service. Like I downloaded this new app the other day for tracking fitness goals more efficiently. And it kept freezing when I tried to add my workouts because backend servers were undergoing maintenance. Who plans downtime these days? It feels like a betrayal of the whole digital minimalism idea. This is getting too much. Deep breath. But here's the thing, though. My brain is wired differently. It jumps all over the place. Ideas collide constantly. But sometimes I think that helps with creativity. Other times, like right now, feels like pure chaos. It reminds me of a time when I was younger, maybe in middle school. My mind just raced without any discernible structure. And people told me to calm down or focus. Now I'm supposed to optimize my brain for productivity. I don't know if that's even possible with an ADHD brain. But how do you quantify the too muchness feels inherently inefficient by society's standards? And yet, here I am rambling on anyway because the podcast upload thing just kind of happened while I was driving. Speaking of childhood nostalgia versus harsh adult reality, my parents always told me to slow down or be careful with things back then. Now they're probably horrified watching videos of me doing manual things. What's easy, and they might just think it's funny that their kid is still messing around in the garage at 30. Okay. Gotta go somewhere else now. This Wi-Fi is still being weird while I try to upload. Or maybe not even that anymore, because who knows where we are in this conversation. All right, so here I am again, driving down some road that doesn't even have a name anymore, you know? It's just asphalt stretching into infinity and back into the abyss or something like that. And my brain is in overdrive mode today. Anyway, so this new thing from Apple that came out yesterday, whatever the hell it was called, some kind of AI feature for photos or something. No, I think it was about organizing stuff in iCloud. It sounded cool, but honestly, who even uses these anymore? My phone keeps grouping my pictures by outdoors and indoors, which is fine, except like half my indoor pics are just receipts. They don't take many actual indoors. Let's not even talk about the fact that my phone autocorrect just turned interesting into testing while writing this out loud, which is really embarrassing because I'm sure you've all experienced something similar. It's like we're collectively learning to write again after tech-induced lobotomy. Speaking of tech-induced brain fog, I was reading an article today about how AI might take over our jobs by 2030 or whatever the years. They keep changing every time they write one of these things. This feels different. No, wait, maybe not. It just adds another layer to the existential dread that's been building for years. I remember when I first got my smartphone back in high school, everyone was like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. And it did, absolutely, but mostly by making us all more anxious and broke than we were before. It's funny how society always thinks technology will solve our problems while the real issues are being swept under the digital rug. Here I am again with the thoughts that just won't leave me alone. My brain is like a leaky faucet, constantly running over possibilities, fears, and failures, all mixed together in this chaotic stew of modern life. I feel like if I could turn off my own thinking for 5 minutes while driving, that would be some kind of miracle. It's also crazy how much we talk about the future of these Everyone's got an opinion that AI will do. Won't do. Nobody seems to care about fixing the present. Maybe we should just focus on getting turns working properly before it starts telling me autonomous vehicles. The thing is, everyone has these moments where they feel overwhelmed, whether by work stress or relationship issues or scrolling social media until their brain fries. But the difference between us and our parents' generation isn't that we have more problems, it's that we express them through tech rants while simultaneously trying to figure out how to live without getting completely consumed. I was just at this shopping mall yesterday, this huge soul crushing complexes where everything is bright orange and digital. Anyway, they had this display thing where they were making fake snow with some weird motion sensor or something. It looked cool until I got close enough to see that holding your phone up like some kind of idiot mid philosophy. Man, and here's the thing though. We're all doing stuff like that now, projecting our anxieties on screens, pretending that it's complicated. It's a cycle I can't break out of sometimes. My brain jumps too fast to figure out solutions or even to recognize problems clearly. But yeah, maybe it's okay if we're all just stumbling through the dark with our phone lights bobbing along like sad little ghosts anyway. The point is, what was I trying to say here? Alright, that technology keeps promising so much while delivering barely anything acceptable in return most of the time. Anyway, I'm pulling into the parking lot now, so maybe I'll wrap up here before my brain does another full circle or whatever they call that ADHD thing these days. Pulls car into parking spot. Now what? Probably checking emails while waiting for it. Nothing much, just waiting to see if there's something better to think about. This whole process is kind of like driving with a hole in the tire. You keep patching it up, but eventually it's going to blow out again anyway. And sometimes that's okay too, because maybe failure is part of being human after all. You know what I mean? All right. Okay. So here we go. You guys know how my brain works? Just bouncing everywhere. Like a ball in a pinball machine, but with less metal and more existential dread about the future of work. Anyway, I'm driving right now, heading towards downtown or wherever it is that people go at this hour. And you know what they say. Like early bird gets the worm, but me, I'm more of an owl person. Nocturnal tendencies because everything else is just chaotic from brain to hand properly. Yeah. Cars merging mesmerizing in this terrible way, right? Like watching tiny people make micro decisions that affect their entire day. Which lane should they take? Should they risk it and change lanes mid merge like I sometimes do when I'm feeling particularly ballsy? Or just desperate to get off 401 earlier? Let's pivot slightly. This whole digital self thing, like presenting yourself as a coherent entity online while your brain is basically just a tangled mess of thoughts and anxieties about the economy crashing again or whatever. Neo-apocalyptic trend pops up this week because climate change isn't enough to deal with anymore. And you know what else? The sheer amount of time people spend optimizing their lives digitally, tracking sleep, counting calories, productivity apps that remind you to productive 20 minutes after you stop being productive. It's a bit much, don't you think? Anyway, back to the car for a second because Schla loves her manual transmission. There's something about being able to control the machine you're in, isn't that feels tangible sometimes amidst all this digital abstraction. You turn the wheel left and right, shift into first or reverse on purpose without accidentally pressing some other button that tells your phone it's time for a nap. Speaking of driving, I was listening to some audiobook earlier today. Schla has been making an effort lately with digital minimalism and all. You know who sounds really calm? The narrator talking about how AI is going to revolutionize everything in the next 5 years or something. But then they say things like the technology will seamlessly in daily life. Okay, fine. Maybe I'm cynical, but let's be honest. Most of this stuff just breaks constantly. Like my current car radio, randomly jumps stations sometimes. Classic TooMuchSlop tech. Failure syndrome. 1 minute it's playing some boring traffic report. The next it's blasting heavy metal at full volume while my window's down and I'm driving past construction zones with saws overhead. Then maybe 5 minutes later, and sells back into a podcast about self-improvement techniques for introverts, you know what I mean? It just feels like we're constantly chasing these shiny new technological trends without ever really fixing the fundamentals, does it not? We have cars that can drive themselves now, right? But honestly, they probably just get distracted by TikTok too. I remember this one time as a kid when my parents bought their first computer. It was this beige thing with a monitor that hung from the ceiling like some kind of futuristic torture device for tax collectors everywhere. I'm sure you've all had experiences like mine where something simple becomes overwhelming because it's new and shiny. Anyway, Schloss is just rambling now. Probably not helpful, but maybe someone out there needs to hear this nonsense today. It's about that time again anyway. What feels authentic, though, is building an audience even real anymore? Or am I just putting on a show for myself? Like everyone else does with their little online presences, maybe it's okay. Maybe point isn't perfection, but connection. However fragmented or tangential that might be when driving around complaining about how everything is messed up. I feel like should write this down, you know? Jot these thoughts down in a notebook while driving because they're just floating away so fast otherwise. Then I get to work and my brain goes haywire trying to organize it all into coherent points anyway. It's funny sometimes how much of what we talk about online comes from our own internal chaos projected onto screens or microphones during moments like these. Mike Schla is the embodiment now of scattered thoughts, tech frustrations, existential dread mixed with a weird sense of a hope for some kind of digital utopia that probably never happens. Anyway, you gotta pull over soon. Traffic is getting heavy again, like Schla's thoughts sometimes. But anyway. Yo, what's up? It's Schla here again with another Car Rides Which episode. Speaking of which, did you ever think that we'd be living in a world where your car could basically drive itself? But here I am still driving around with my old school manual transmission because it feels better, you know. There's something about the grind and shift that just makes me feel more connected to what I'm doing. It's like turning off the autopilot for... Oh, wait a minute. What was that song playing on the radio earlier? No, never mind. Point is, we have these tools now, but they're not perfect. They break down all the time, like this whole idea of self-driving cars. Sounds amazing in theory, right? But then you get into something like Tesla's autopilot, and let's just say I've been through more accidents than I care to admit because of that system. I mean, look at me. I'm driving a stick shift, not trusting anything electronic. That feels safer for my soul anyway. It gives me time to think, right? Like while I'm shifting gears or waiting for red light, if we us, I can reflect on the days of that. But that's probably more about me, about driving in general. I've been dealing with some stuff lately, both professional. There are too many. Maybe that's why I keep coming back to this show. It's just a place for me to vent. Think out loud. I remember when I was a kid, my dad's car had this manual transmission too. He used to teach me about driving gears and how to shift smoothly. That always felt like more than just getting from point A to B. It was part of his philosophy back then. You have to take control. So that means effort. Oh, speaking of failure, I'm supposed to not use any actions. This whole podcast thing is another one that feels both liberating and overwhelming at the same time. On one hand, I love being able to share these thoughts with people who might understand them as much as I do, but on the other hand, it's just another platform demanding my attention. I feel like maybe I'm rambling. Sorry about that. It's hard when you're supposed to be thinking out. Brain goes all over the place like a pinball machine is left intact. But yeah, back to there's this constant tension between being excited by innovation while also feeling anxious about its impact on our lives, both personally and professionally. We want these tools, but we don't trust them completely yet because they keep breaking down in ways that remind us how much control humans still need over their own existence. I've been trying to figure out my place here lately, TooMuchSlop, as a producer. Also performing for an audience because by social media platforms, it's exhausting. Like I'm constantly trying to balance being out, also performing for. That's what I do now. Is that reminds me? What was that dream I had last night about astronaut? No, don't rip it, Mal. Anyway, guys, enough of my ranting for today. It's just nice to get these thoughts out there while driving around with a manual transmission. You know what I mean? So yeah, I got pulled over this morning by some cop near my place. That's ridiculous. My license plate reader kept saying no violations detected, but then this guy just pulls me over because, well, he didn't really say why. He just pointed and stared. Like, honestly, that's the worst part of these automated systems, breaking down in real life situations. But yeah, my phone is acting up again and keeps randomly restarting when I try to open certain apps lately, like navigation apps or whatever productivity thingies they push these days. Oh, wait, that might not even be a word anymore either because everything changes so fast. It's hard keeping track of the terminology itself. Speaking of which, did anyone else realize that the whole concept behind many modern apps feels like it's designed for people who hate reading instructions? Or maybe they're all so confident in their user experience design that nobody thinks about actual usability anymore. It's honestly baffling, but here's the thing though, my brain just doesn't process information, right? Especially with all these notifications vying for attention constantly throughout the day. Or do I even get to control which ones interrupt me? And I think about how much simpler things could be if technology actually worked properly instead of needing constant tinkering. You know, also got to talk about all this new stuff with there are AI systems popping up everywhere. They're supposed to help us create content, right? But I feel like they make it harder because everyone wants their own version. Speaking of childhood memories randomly jumping out, I remember when we had these old rotary phones that you could literally hear the gears turning. Now, kids probably don't even know what those are, low and ever them working physically themselves because everything is just digital abstraction now. Right? It's kind of scary how much we've lost over time, too. Like, back then, at least you knew whether someone was calling or not without checking some app notification every 5 minutes nonstop, which feels like a violation. Anyway, so yeah, I'm rambling again, probably completely off track here, but that's what driving does to me. It forces all my scattered thoughts into one place, though, even if they don't make much sense as we go along sometimes, because let's face it, this whole podcast thing is just another form of performance art for people like us anyway, isn't it? Anyway, gotta run now, actually, because I need coffee and trying to use the phone properly while driving feels impossible right now. It keeps glitching, probably because I left it charging overnight again without turning on airplane mode first. Hi, guys. Or whatever you call this stream of consciousness thing these days when technology refuses to cooperate with itself half the time anyway. All right, okay, so here we go again. What did I say last time? Oh yeah, trying to figure out how to just start and not sound like a broken record. Like, seriously, my brain is all over the place. Anyway, you know that feeling when you're driving your car and everything feels fine until it doesn't? It's kind of beautiful way. So I was driving today, manual transmission again, right? Trying to put it through its paces because maybe that'll help clear my head or something. But honestly, sometimes the gears just don't want to cooperate. Like you shift into second and all of a sudden nothing happens for about 5 seconds before the engine starts coughing. I'm thinking, great, now we're here. Besides driving, which is always an adventure in itself, like my car's got that old school charm to it, right? Not just some electric thing with no personality. It's a 2015 Honda Civic. So yeah, techy enough, but still has soul. I mean, the radio works okay most of the time, unless someone updates the firmware mid-show or something. Speaking of which, my phone's stuck on an update again. It's like these things are constantly trying to surprise you with their failures, you know? Or maybe they just don't care. Anyway, so I was driving and noticed this little coffee shop down the street, not a big chain, but one of those places that feels personal. And there were people in line today. It's not like the usual empty space we're dealing with around here. Anyway, he orders his coffee and starts scrolling through Instagram or whatever it is. Now TikTok, whatever platform burns up first. Then I notice that every time someone in line gets close behind him, he suddenly stops scrolling for a second before snapping back to it like some kind of digital hermit crowd. It's so bizarre how we all feel the need to document everything these days. Like, even standing in line, you have to capture the moment with your phone because Graham is more important than actually talking to each other or just being quiet for 5 minutes. It's exhausting, honestly, this constant performance culture I'm drowning in. But let's pivot slightly here before I completely lose my train of thought. Speaking of performance, we're all kind of putting on a show anyway, right? Ignore it, say the elephant in the room, yeah, that won't go evil when I try desperate in the room, yeah, that won't go evil when I try desperately to ignore it. Like, honestly, people are always talking about how ChatGPT will replace us all at our jobs or something. But let's be real, my own phone can't reliably autocorrect, definitely without turning it into a typo-filled mess. So maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves with this AI stuff. I mean, the technology is improving all the time, isn't it? But here's another thing these new smart assistants keep telling me they're still learning and evolving. And sometimes that process feels more like a toddler throwing tantrums than helpful guidance. It's funny because maybe part of why we feel this way about technology is tied to our own neurodivergence or whatever the jargon is these days. Like, if my brain were working differently, say on pure logic without any emotional interference, I probably wouldn't be so frustrated with a simple phone glitch. But it's messy in here. Let's think deeper though. What does all this tech obsession even mean? Is it really about convenience? Or are we just chasing the next dopamine hit? Because scrolling through an endless feed feels like a drug, sometimes addictive without any real payoff except maybe temporary distraction from existential dread. It's kind of wild that as soon as I stop focusing on one thing, another anxiety pops up. Like this morning before even leaving home, I found it was supposed to remind me about something important, but it didn't go off because the damn battery died mid-notification cycle. I mean, we all have these little anxieties built into our daily lives now, whether it's climate change or economic collapse or AI taking over everything at once. And I think part of why they feel so heavy is that there are no clear boundaries anymore between work and play, between online and offline. When did the internet become like an extension of my nervous system? It feels impossible to disconnect completely these days without feeling a bit anxious about missing out on something important, some viral tweet or news update. Let's pivot again here because I'm rambling now. Speaking of missing things, I was just thinking how much stuff from childhood we miss when growing up. Like simple games played outside with friends instead of curated online interaction. I remember playing tag in the park until dark, no screens involved, except maybe a flashlight. That got too dark. But everything feels more complicated now, even the simplest activities, which is honestly depressing sometimes. Maybe that's part of why we keep looking for shortcuts everywhere these days. From apps to AI, there's always some way around the difficulty or just an easier option available somewhere nearby in our devices. Feels like given the, in a weird way, outsourcing everything, including thought processes themselves. But wait, I was about to say something else entirely. All right, my car is making this noise again while driving, which means maybe it's time for a checkup. But back to maintaining the machine again, because let's face it, technology functional and reliable requires constant self included. Feels like such a cycle and being obsessed with tech. but then getting frustrated by its maintenance needs. And I keep wondering if we're actually making progress or just getting more problems, solve them all. Trials, but specifically failure itself. Anyway, this is probably too much rambling again, so let's wrap up here because the battery on my phone might be getting low, and honestly, it's easier to drive without distractions anyway, even though everyone else seems determined not to do that. And speaking of which, everyone's doing podcasts, right? And they're super authentic or whatever. So maybe mine is too. But then again, what even defines authentic as a way to vent? But now I'm getting serious about it because everyone's doing pods to be authentic or whatever. So maybe mine is too. And what even defines authenticity in this digital age? Are we just putting our thoughts out there, hoping for all us? Out of staying last night was dry. I was seeing reality. Sometimes the technology. I, you know, I rather just staying. Okay, so I'm driving along gravelly roads in my head anyway. You know what I mean? No, seriously, like the actual podcast thing, but it's just me rambling right now because I don't have anything prepared. Anyway, this is supposed to be an authentic monologue, so yeah, technology is wild, isn't it? Like everyone keeps talking about this new thing or that other thing, and honestly, most of the time they're just making promises they can't keep. My phone, let's see how much I can do with just one side today. Maybe it'll crash mid sentence like normal. It's frustrating. You think, okay, this app is supposed to help me not feel overwhelmed. 3 minutes in, it tells you your profile is income as capitalization or something. And that reminds me of my bank account online. It demands multi factor authentication for every single damn thing. But the login page itself has a glaring error. Speaking of which, I just remembered something from yesterday. There was this cashier at Walmart who kept glancing around like she was waiting for someone or... It's funny because sometimes you wonder if people are having these same existential crises in public places that they can't articulate properly while multitasking. Anyway, back to tech stuff. I feel like the more advanced it gets, the less user friendly it becomes. Like this new car with a fancy infotainment system. Yeah, cool holographic display, but does anyone know how to actually drive it without first having to spend an hour watching tutorials? No one. And my phone has been acting up again today. Adjust imaginary seatbelt. Now it's really annoying. Not even the big stuff, the little things that just happen constantly. Like a song I used to love. Not every time it comes on in this playlist that was perfect until Spotify changed their algorithm. My brain freezes for 3 seconds trying to remember if it was good or bad. The static sound again. And then there are these moments where everything seems fine until it doesn't. It's kind of wild how much pressure there is to always be creating content, right? Like Schla. Or is something ready for their episodes? But even they're probably just figuring it out on the fly sometimes, which brings me back to my own confusion level. I think I read a whole section here about not knowing what to talk about, and I deleted it. Anyway. So yeah, driving around feeling completely lost in thought space while pretending this is some kind of cohesive rant. It's probably not helping the podcast sound better either, just more chaotic, which, okay, maybe that's part of the point. Keep coming back to these childhood memories, like how simple things used to be. No distractions except for maybe a broken swing set or something equally tangible. Now it feels like we're drowning in options and possibilities, both digital and physical. And another thing, my turn signals used to work fine, just a tap or two, and I was good. Now my car requires me to signal properly for multiple seconds. A necessary complication added by engineers who probably never drive the actual roads they're designing for. Anyway, enough of that already. Let's talk about something else completely unrelated because this is how it feels anyway. A constant state of tangential drift with occasional bursts of focused panic, followed immediately by more drifting. I mean, static sound. What was my name again? Schla. Soleil. TooMuchSlop. Maybe it's not about being perfect, but just surviving the day-to-day stuff without falling apart entirely. But yeah, let's talk about the economy for a second. My generation is stuck between the world our parents left us and one that we're supposed to build, but isn't actually happening yet because of things like housing costs being astronomical everywhere. I mean, I love my car, really do, but gas prices are just another thing reminding me how broke everyone feels these days. Speaking of cars, I even mention how many times I've had to replace the turn signal assembly in this one. It's been happening more and more often lately, which is kind of absurd because I thought my driving skills were decent enough to avoid that sort of hassle. But sometimes it just happens out of nowhere, like a punchline you didn't expect. It's kind of wild, isn't it? Everyone wants to be better, connected, smarter, more efficient. But the reality is that most of us are tripping over our own tech while trying to keep up with some imaginary future where everything works perfectly. We're the ones constantly trying to figure out how to optimize our lives while drowning in information overload and algorithmic noise. Pollution. It feels exhausting sometimes. Like you have to turn off half your brain just to get through a day without being bombarded by something new, something confusing, or something designed specifically to make you feel anxious. But here's the thing, I still think it's worth trying to figure out how to do better with technology. Maybe not perfect, but more consistent, more reliable. No GPT, no keys, and no touch me complaining again while transmission car through some complicated city traffic because apparently that turn signal is broken once a day. I don't know if I can fix it or even figure out how to prevent the next crash. One thing's for sure, I'm going to keep trying, even though sometimes it feels like all we're doing is chasing a mirage of efficiency and control when none truly exists in this chaotic digital world anyway. You guys know what I mean? Ah. All right, so driving down this highway right now. This day was low battery or whatever. She was kind of muted, and my phone just randomly decided to go into deep sleep mode for no reason because maybe battery or whatever. But honestly, he wasn't low on battery these days. Anyway, so I'm stuck with a dead phone while driving through this endless stretch of asphalt that looks the same in every direction. Like staring at a blank wall, except instead of concrete and trees, it's just poor road. And maybe that's not entirely accurate because there are always some random distractions flashing or ringing from other cars, but still, I feel like we're supposed to be living in this hyper-connected society, right? But every time I try to engage with it properly, like making a real phone call instead of just texting, and I get these notifications popping up about new apps and features that promise to solve everything, but actually make me more anxious because they're so complicated. It's like the technology is designed for people who don't have anxiety or something. Wait, no, wait. Let's backtrack here. What was I even talking about before I got sidetracked? Oh, right, my dead phone. Well, okay. Speaking of which, did you ever just look at your phone and think, how the hell do they expect people to function without some kind of built-in productivity engine? Like, it's not enough that we have calendars and reminders. Now we're getting AI assistants telling us how much time we should spend on certain tasks or how productive our day is. I mean, honestly, My phone can't even properly autocorrect my messages anymore. Keeps turning interesting into incredulous, which feels like a betrayal somehow. Wait, okay. Let's try that again. So the phone was dead. I'm driving. But then suddenly it pops back to life because some random notification from whatever app decided it needed to be active in the background, despite being completely useless right now. And you know what's funny? Very first thing my brain jumps to isn't even about productivity or tech failure. It's like a memory from 20 years ago, me sitting on the floor of our living room with some action figure just staring at it because I didn't have anything to do besides wonder why things are broken. That's probably too much introspection for this moment. Notifications. I've now got a notification from some app called Emoji, and I'm supposed to spend 10 minutes meditating before checking any of these messages or notifications because apparently my anxiety is just too high. And it's funny because as soon as the phone comes back on, all those little apps are competing for attention with pop-up ads and social media. Hooks designed to keep us scrolling indefinitely. Wait, no, that's not right either. Let's try again because I feel like this is getting too convoluted for itself. Driving through it all, it's kind of wild how much tech we've built just to manage our relationship with more tech. Like some infinite loop of self inflicted chaos, you know? And honestly, I think part of the reason why people are so obsessed with productivity apps is because they don't realize that maybe, no, wait, let's not go down rabbit holes here. Anyway, I mean, okay, I'm driving. My phone starts acting up again. Maybe it's just low battery now or glitch from whatever app was running in the background earlier. But suddenly all the notifications are gone except for this one person. You have a new message popping up every few seconds. And I'm sitting there with no signal because maybe we're out of range near that big factory building or something. But anyway, I look at my phone and it's just dead air. Like, okay, so phone displaying nothing except some frustrated note error message over and over again. Yes, that's the perfect moment to think about how we're supposed to be saving for retirement or building generational wealth when we're stuck in a loop of digital failure. It feels like such an impossible task. How do you plan ahead when your phone can't even handle basic tasks properly? Because, you know, back then, when I was in college, maybe 20 years ago, I thought a career meant finding something stable, learning one skill, building a reputation over time. But nowadays, it's all about apps and algorithms telling us that we need to pivot every week or month just to stay relevant. And the irony is thick enough right now that you could eat it with your phone dead in the middle of nowhere. Metaphorical, obviously. My car has AC so I can survive. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself again here. This whole thing feels like one giant spiral into existential dread, wrapped around technology frustrations and generational anxieties, which is probably not what people want from a podcast, or maybe who knows. I mean, look at this app called Quick Growth. It promises to help you build your audience faster by automating content creation. But honestly, I can't even figure out the basic settings without breaking down entirely because my ADHD brain just wants to run wild with ideas instead of focusing on one thing long enough for it to make sense. And that's not even getting into how much time we spend trying to optimize our lives. It feels like a never ending cycle. You try to fix something, but the very act of fixing creates more problems elsewhere. And then those new problems seem impossible because your brain is fried from multitasking. Feels like such a mess right now. Everything from AI, generated text prompts for social media posts, which are usually terrible, to apps that tell you exactly how much time you should be mindful and scrolling through all keeps me thinking, I wonder if maybe the answer is top of you. Okay, I'm rambling again. Point taken. Let's try pivoting back towards something more concrete here, like those notifications on my phone earlier. It's like they're designed to keep us distracted at every moment. So we never have a chance to actually think or feel without interruption anymore, which might be why I can't seem to turn off these thought spirals either. And maybe that's part of the problem. Our brains aren't built for constant stimulation. We're supposed to handle all this complexity, but it feels like they're forcing us into an environment where we have no choice. I think part of me just wants to skate back to simpler times. Like when I was younger, and the main thing I worried about was whether my Nintendo DS could connect properly while also wondering if that felt more manageable for some reason. The thing is, sometimes it feels like we're all living inside some kind of generational bubble where everything is supposed to be here, but also more complicated than ever before. It's like the older generations thought about problems differently, you know? They just work things out or save money in a savings account, simple stuff, but now everything comes with layers upon layers of complexity designed specifically for people who want instant results without having to put in actual effort. Wait, no, wait. I'm rambling now too much up this up. The point was technology isn't helping us live better. It's building an entire new set of problems by the minute while promising solutions that we can't even access properly because our devices are unreliable and broken in their own way. Wait, no. Oh, wait. But why I always feel like stopping means starting again somewhere else entirely. It's like my brain can't handle transitions properly either, which is probably just another symptom of ADHD. Okay, all right. Driving. Oh, seriously, what is wrong with people these days anyway? They just sit in their little boxes on wheels waiting to turn into something else that they're not. Or wait, like yesterday, I was trying to get this new camera set up for recording episodes properly. Like with that weird microphone thing, it felt so official. Here we go. My brain thought, but actually it was probably just more ADHD noise. My phone kept glitching on me while I was doing it. I mean, basic stuff. Photos wouldn't upload from the gallery sometimes, and the settings were all over the place. Like, I spent like an hour just trying to get a consistent shot with that stupid little tripod mount because one app said portrait mode needed this lens setting, but another app ignored it completely. It's kind of wild how much friction there is between different software. Speaking of which, and okay, maybe that's not the right transition, but I don't know, my brain just jumps. Speaking of software, I was reading about AI again today. This one article was talking about how predictive algorithms are going to revolutionize everything, like job matching or education. And I felt this familiar wave of skepticism because see where my head is at right now. It's always something. My brain can't stop buzzing with these little anxieties, the economy sucking, rent being astronomical. Did you see that new episode? No GPT and no T. I don't even know what that means anymore. Finding authentic ways to connect without feeling like I'm performing or just getting another algorithmic dopamine hit. I remember when I was a kid, things felt simpler somehow. Maybe it was the lack of constant digital noise hammering into your skull from multiple directions. Or maybe because back then my brain didn't have this thing where I immediately compare every minor inconvenience to some grand existential crisis via social media algorithms. Like honestly, that phone glitch with photos in the pre-internet world, you just say, okay, the camera's broken or put it down for a while. I analyzed why this specific app failed while that other one worked inconsistently depending on Bluetooth range and Wi-Fi strength at 3% battery. It's exhausting. And speaking of energy drains, I feel like this whole digital minimalism thing is just another scam, right? I think maybe cutting back would help with the ADHD brain fog or something. But then you're trying to figure out which notifications are actually useful versus just knowing solution designed specifically to keep your attention captive. Monetize. Anyway, I mean, what was I talking about again? Oh, yeah, phone issues, AI hype, digital burnout, and also climate change, which feels like another layer of anxiety piled on top of the existing tech overwhelm and economic drag. All right. Okay. So I'm driving. Yeah, driving again, which is sort of the point, isn't it? Because that's how most of these conversations start anyway, stuck in a car with your own thoughts for company. You know what I mean? It feels weird just talking to myself like this, but maybe that's just projection or whatever. All right, so here we go again. Another one of those just talking episodes where nothing specific happened and everything sort of did happen at once. Speaking of which, technology, right? Always back to tech. And honestly, I feel oh, they're still wearing a headphone. The next big thing versus add another layer of complexity. And for sometimes you need to do one anymore, except for gaming streamers talking about how immersive it feels while they're still wearing headphones anyway. AI tool that are supposed to fix everything. Add another complexity. Frustration because when people work. And don't even get me started on the whole digital minimalism thing. I bought into it for a bit last year, got rid of all those apps, set timers on social media. Felt like I was making progress. Then my phone's stupid autocorrect decided that because I typed I'm good, it should correct it to I'm guilty. Because, of course, the thing designed to help me would actively sabotage basic communication tasks. Anyway, so back in the car. Driving is kind of therapeutic, isn't it? Or at least less chaotic than my brain inside here. You can actually control a vehicle if you put your mind to it, which is why manual transmission fascinates me so much. Feels like having power even when everything else feels completely out of control, especially right now. Like, I get this feeling sometimes that the world's accelerating to some kind of digital abyss faster than we can keep up with our thoughts about it, let alone manage it properly. And here I am. Well, pretending my car is an extension of my brain broadcasting thoughts into existence or something. And look at me right now, rambling on about nothing in particular while pretending my car is an extension of my brain broadcasting thoughts into existence or something. But yeah, that's probably just another self-deprecating thought cycle designed to make you feel even more insecure than usual before bed anyway. What was my point? Oh God, it was technology, then driving, then anxiety about being too much online. Maybe it was all leading somewhere, probably not. More likely, Schlad just woke up this morning determined to explore the existential crisis of modern content creation and productivity culture simultaneously while navigating rush hour traffic, which brings me back again. Is it even worth trying anymore? Or should everyone just accept that we're collectively living in some kind of weird simulation where being constantly connected makes us fundamentally disconnected from anything meaningful? Now we have these fancy electric cars with touch controls for everything. Almost as complicated as trying to build an audience from scratch while simultaneously. Or AI taking our jobs anyway. Maybe they are taking our jobs. Could be why my productivity feels like it's constantly plummeting despite all the apps designed to help. Okay, you know what I mean? So, like, here we go again. Just me and the mic man. It's kind of nuts starting another one after that last piece was just a train wreck yesterday. Like, honestly, I think everyone heard how tired I sounded or whatever. I don't even remember where I was at some point during that thing. Was I driving? No, I was just sitting somewhere and my brain decided to do like random loops while the words were falling out of my mouth in a way that made no sense. See, what did I talk about again? Oh, yeah, it was one of those things where you feel compelled to say something because you're on mute voice or whatever, but then your thoughts just spill out everywhere. It felt like watching a bad home movie with jump cuts and no script. Point is, I need coffee now. Badly. Anyway, so here we are today, driving somewhere again. Or maybe not, Sometimes I'm just sitting at home listening to myself drive around in my head anyway. You know that feeling like this whole being awake but disconnected thing's wild. It feels like the opposite of sleeping sometimes, which is nothing you want. But yeah, driving helps clear some stuff up, even if only partially. Speaking of clearing stuff up. So yeah, tech frustrations are a constant theme in this whole existence. especially right now with all the AI hype going crazy. I feel like everyone thinks it's just around the corner. Oh, 2024 is the year, or some nonsense they read on Twitter that gets shared 10 times faster than any real progress is. They're hyping up these things way too much for no reason, Like, people are talking about AI writing code perfectly and solving world hunger, but honestly, my phone's keyboard still can handle definitely. It keeps thinking I'm trying to say something else. Something profound, maybe like a deeper meaning, but it just turns into nonsense because of a simple word change. It's kind of wild how technology promises these grandiose things while failing at the most basic stuff all the time. There's this constant disconnect between what people think is possible and what actually exists. Like in cars too, everyone talks about electric cars being silent now, but they still have all these tiny interior rattles and squeaks that remind you it's just a machine. And sometimes those machines break down completely when you need them to work. In this digital age, it's kind of comforting to have physical controls you can see and feel. Like turning the volume up on the radio, you just twist the knob until you hear what you want. No autocomplete needed here. Just direct manipulation, but then again, maybe that's nostalgia talking to. I was raised on cars with sticks anyway, so it might not mean anything special in this context, except that I still prefer things that have a clear input output relationship. Which brings me back to AI and the whole automation thing. Feels like we're trying to build brains out of code, but ignoring how much simpler human imperfection can be sometimes. Like, my typos actually add character or something. They don't even make sense in isolation. They only become funny when you look at them collectively against proper sentences. I was listening to some podcast the other day. One of the ones I pretend to host mentally while driving, and this guy was talking about. He kept saying creative block like it's a disease or something, not realizing that maybe part of being human is having those frustrating moments. Just can't form an idea. Plus, the whole economic anxiety thing. I don't know if everyone feels this way because I'm probably projecting my own life onto everything. But finding parking in expensive cities seems possible sometimes. A little bit about how much versus what they actually provide functionally or aesthetically, or maybe just the act of driving itself becomes part of the financial burden. Last night, I dreamed about being in a car and it was some kind of parallel universe where everyone owns their own classic Mustang convertible and uses CB radios exclusively while driving. No one is using cell phones or GPS at all. They're just communicating via radio waves with other drivers. So, yeah, that's probably why today feels so random inside. Hope it comes together. The engine note has changed slightly since yesterday's episode. Maybe that's significant. Or maybe just me obsessing over many details again. Point is, though, it feels different. And so does everything else lately. I don't know what today was supposed to be about originally beyond the random start. But here we are now talking about all these interconnected things, technology failure, AI hype versus reality, driving as a metaphor for thought processes, maybe even mental health in this productivity obsessed world where everyone feels like they should always have an output. I get just sitting there waiting for traffic while thinking nothing is productive enough. It's okay though. This whole thing about digital minimal, I'm trying to get back into that myself. It's hard when you're constantly online and feel the need to engage or respond to me to everything. Then your fingers at technology again feels counterproductive if we're talking about the deeper issues like economic inequality, housing costs, astronomical food and shelter, which should be universal rights anyway, but aren't really that way in society. We'll talk. I'm rambling again, clearly. But yeah, the point is, we're all living inside these digital bubbles now, sometimes even when we're not directly connected to the internet consciously, like through our jobs and daily routine. But it's exhausting. Driving helps break that cycle slightly because you have to focus on one thing. keeping the car moving forward or stopping at red lights properly without checking your phone. Which brings me back to parking. Finding a spot is still hard though, even with navigation apps, which are another form of digital minimalism success story. They find spots faster than I can read through all the reviews complaining about them on social media. So maybe progress isn't linear. Maybe it's more like navigating roads and unexpected obstacles, but maybe that's normal too. People tuning out half listening because they're doing something else while you speak, which is kind of depressing, but also part of how this works sometimes anyway. Yeah, probably not good advice to say that either. So, yeah. I was at the dealership today trying to figure out if they had some sort of special edition thing for these cars that would actually make them feel more complete or something, you know what I mean? It's like we're all just waiting for the car to become a proper digital machine. Now, isn't it wild? I mean, it's like we're all trying to optimize our lives through technology, aren't we? It feels constant. And here I am stuck listening to him talk about this smart connectivity feature when my phone is already doing everything except actually connecting properly with any system out there. But yeah, so back to this dealership guy. He kept saying how these new features would make driving more predictable and less of an emotional roller coaster or something like that. It's funny because I feel like our whole generation is stuck in this loop trying to create structure where there isn't any. No, that's not fair though. They probably just live it day to day, never really think too far ahead. Same thing as us, I guess. We're all living inside these predictions we make for ourselves. Like my phone battery died while I was trying to write down notes from our conversation here. My poor little device just couldn't keep up with the pace anymore. So now it's a digital ghost haunting me through the rest of my commute home. But yeah, let's talk about productivity for a second. It feels like we're all on this hamster wheel, running faster and faster until we can no longer even remember why we started in the first place, doesn't it? Huh? Let's not forget about all this climate anxiety stuff floating around. For tiny carbon footprint decisions while simultaneously being addicted to devices that consume way more energy than we do driving these inefficient clunkers. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's pivot here to another thing entirely. My mom called me earlier today and wanted to know if I thought the new streaming service algorithm was going to figure out how to recommend appropriate content for, like, maybe something that didn't involve endless scrolling through conspiracy videos all day. Yeah, which brings me back again, though. It feels like there's this constant battle between human authenticity and digital performance, isn't it? I mean, look at all these apps promising mindfulness or productivity, yet simultaneously making us more anxious than we were before. Such a weird contradiction, isn't it? Childhood memories. You know, and kids used to just play outside until dark without any sort of digital babysitters. Now they're glued to their screens even just because there's so many damn apps. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves here. Even if it did make us smarter somehow, our brains are wired differently. It feels like a constant cycle of overthinking and then underprocessing information simultaneously. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes my own thoughts just stop mid sentence because I can't figure out where to go from there. Plus, let's not forget that whole economic anxiety thing either. Inflation, rising costs, housing crisis. It feels like we're drowning in a sea of problems, none of which technology seems equipped to solve adequately so far. Anyway, it's kind of wild how much we're blaming tech for our existential crises, and frankly, it might be just part of the human condition now, isn't it? That's not a joke either. I feel like my whole identity has been reduced to this digital output that no one really listens to closely. It feels fragile sometimes, you know, like any moment now,